students, I still remain your teacher, that is Teacher Morris. And last time we looked at some things, and we looked at what we are calling as air, where we looked at the properties, and then also we looked at the uses of air in our environment. But before we look at what we're having and we try to go through what we looked at last time, I want first of all to take my young brothers and sisters who are at home due to this COVID-19. I want us to first of all go through some of the SOPs that we have to follow as we are still continuing staying at home, because we cannot yet come to school as the ministry still instructed us to stay at home. But we shall still also continue learning as we wait for the day when they will open for us to come back to school. So I want to request my young brothers and sisters, and I love them so much, by still telling them some of the SOPs that we have to follow as we continue staying at home. And I want also to request my dear lovely parents that please let's try to keep these young ones at home, and if they have to move out, let's try to make sure that they put on their face mask, and also let them keep their social distance in order to avoid this COVID-19 from destroying the young generation. I would like also first of all to take them through some of the procedures. How do we put on this face mask, and how do you really put it on, and what are the procedures, what are the steps that we need to take. So for my young brothers and sisters who are at home, this is what you are supposed to do. If you're to put on your face mask, the first thing is you must make sure that your hands are properly washed. If you don't have the sanitizer, you can also use clean water and soap in order to clean your hands before putting on your face mask. So when you put on face mask, you have to hold the loops, and when you hold the loops, make sure that it clips over your ears, and make sure that it covers both the nose and the chin, and make sure that you put on properly, and make sure that as you're removing, don't touch anywhere apart from holding the loops and removing it properly. So that's how we're supposed to do it, and I believe by so doing that, we shall still stay safe, and we shall protect ourselves and wait for the time of coming back to school. Thank you. So I want us to go through some brief discussion about what we looked at last time. We looked at air into details, and we said air is the mixture of gases. And we said that when you talk of mixture, meaning that there is a combination of several gases that form a component of gases. So we said we looked at the component of gases, where we looked at oxygen as being one of the components, and then also we looked at nitrogen as one of them. We also looked at hydrogen. We also looked at carbon dioxide. And we said we also looked at them in terms of their percentages, where we say nitrogen has 97% in the atmosphere. We also said that oxygen has 21% in the atmosphere. We said that rare gases has 0.97%, and also carbon dioxide has 0.03%. So also we looked at these, the uses of air in the atmosphere or in our environment at large, where we say oxygen is breathed in by animals, where we said that not only the animals that we look or we see them within our environment, but we said also birds are also animals, the fish also animals, and even human beings, we are also animals. So we also breathe in oxygen, and we say carbon dioxide is used in fire extinguisher to put out burning fire. We said that in the absence of oxygen, burning does not take place, and we said oxygen supports burning. Then we also said that oxygen is required in the process of seed germination, and we said that with the time we shall look at seed germination into details. So before wasting much of your time, I want us to look at what we are to have today, we are still under the topic of environment and weather. So let's try to see our subtopic of today, where we shall see how best we can handle the sun. And we are saying that the sun is the main natural source of light in our environment. And also we are saying that we have the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. The sun rises from the east and sets in the west. And we are saying that the sun is the hottest star in the atmosphere. So the question you can ask you, name the hottest star in the atmosphere, and that is the sun. So let's see our subtopic. We are saying the sun as being our topic of discussion. So we have said that we have to look at some of the key notes under the sun. And we are saying the sun is the main natural source of light. The sun is the main natural source of light. Natural source of light. So a question that asks you that name the main natural source of light. Our answer is the sun. And we are also saying that the sun rises from the direction of east and sets in the west. The sun rises from the east. And when you're to write these cardinal points, you must make sure you start with the capital letters. Don't start the east with a small letter. Make sure you start with the capital letter, because it's a main cardinal point. So we are saying that the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. In the west. Even the west, since it's the main cardinal point, you must also make sure that it starts with a capital letter. That is W, which is capital, and the rest of the letters can be small. So we are saying that the sun rises from the east and sets in the west. Also, there is something we need to know about the sun. Like more especially during daytime, because we know the sun is ever there during daytime. So as you're moving, you see something and someone says, there's something moving next to me. What is that? It's the shadow. So when we are opaque objects, why do we call opaque objects? Because light cannot pass through us and be seen in the other direction. So when the sun rays is blocked by an opaque object, take for example a human being, is blocked, light cannot be seen in the other direction, meaning that we have obstructed the light rays. Now what will be formed is called the shadow. So if the sun is coming is rising from the eastern direction, then the shadow lies in the western direction, meaning that the shadow lies in the opposite direction to the sun. So if the sun is in the west, more especially in the morning, you will see that your shadow lies in the west. And if the sun is in the west, that is in the evening, you will see that your shadow sets or lies in the east. So meaning that the shadow lies in the opposite direction to to the sun. So we are saying that when the sun rays, when the sun rays is blocked by an opaque object, when the sun rays is R-A-Y, when the sun rays is blocked by an opaque object, is blocked by an opaque object, or by an opaque object, comma, we see that the shadow lies in the opposite direction to the sun. The shadow lies in opposite direction to the sun, Now, you know, some of my young brothers who are at home there, they're asking themselves that what is a shadow or what is an opaque object? There are two terms that we need to know here. Is an opaque object, where an opaque object is an object that do not allow light to pass through it. For example, we have human beings, or we can have animals. We can also have like birds. Do not allow light to pass through them. Even the tables, they don't allow light to pass through them. We also have the chairs. Yes, they don't allow light to pass through them. Even the walls, they are opaque objects because they don't allow light to pass through them. Then someone can ask that, now how about those ones that allow light to pass through them? How do we call them? Those ones are called transparent objects. Objects that allow light to pass through them. And also there are some other materials that allow little amount of light to pass through them. And how do we call them? They are called translucent objects. So those are what we have to know. With the time we shall learn them more. Then also under the sun, we are also saying that the sun is the hottest star in the atmosphere. The sun is the hottest star, in the atmosphere. Is the hottest star in the atmosphere. In the atmosphere. The sun is the hottest star in the atmosphere. Now, we don't have only the sun as being the natural source of light. There are others, natural sources of light. But the sun is the main. That's why we have started with the sun as being the main natural source of light. But also we have other natural sources of light. Let's try to look at those natural sources of light. We are saying other natural sources of light. Other natural sources of light. Other natural sources of light. And what are those other natural sources of light? Let's try to look at them one by one and try to see those other natural sources of light besides the sun. One, we have the stars. We have the stars as being other natural sources of light. But I know someone is now eager to tell me the moon. The moon is not the natural source of light, and you can ask yourself, why is it not a natural source of light? The moon reflects its light from the sun. For it does not produce its own light, but it reflects its light from the sun. So the moon is not a natural source of light. So we have said, number one, we have the star. The stars are the natural sources of light. Then also too, we have the glowworms. We have glowworms. Glowworms. Also we have fireflies. Fireflies are also natural source. It's also a natural source of light. And lastly, we have the lightning. Lightning is also another natural source of light. And in Uganda, some people told me it's called a mataba. So we are saying that lightning is a natural source of light. We have also talked of the stars as being the natural source of light. We have also talked of the glowworms and then the fireflies. These are the natural sources of light, not the moon. The moon is not the natural source of light. So let's have some brief note about the moon. A brief note about the moon. Brief note about the moon. Why are we saying the moon is not a natural source of light? So we are saying the moon is not the natural source of light. The moon is not a natural source. Is not a natural source of light. The moon is not a natural source of light. Natural source of light because it reflects its light from the sun. From the sun. we know that the moon lights at night, meaning that during daytime, for it is absorbing, is getting its light from the sun, such that is able to produce light at night. That's why we are saying that the moon is not the natural source of light, because it reflects its light from the sun. So let's look at the artificial sources of light. We have the natural source of light and the artificial source of light. The natural one means that no human being can make them, but the artificial are the ones we can also make them ourselves. For example, we have the bulbs, right? When I put on the light, you will see that we are able to see. When I put on the twig, we are able to see light, because this is artificially made. We are the ones who make them. But then also we have also like candle. When you try to light the candle, you will see that there is light in the room. More especially if you try to put it in the room, dark room at night, and try to light the candle, you will see that there is light in that place. Then also we look at the torches where we use them at night. Yes, this is also artificially made, but it's not made by God. We also have fire. We can cook using fire, and at the same time we can also get light from fire. So those artificial sources of light, and also we have the natural sources of light. So let's look at the artificial sources of light. Artificial sources of light. Artificial sources. Artificial sources of light. So what are the artificial sources of light? We have talked of one as the bulbs, electric bulbs. We have electric bulbs. Two, we have the matchbox. Matchboxes. What else do we have as the artificial source of light? We also have candles. We also have fire itself. We also have fire. We can use fire to produce light. What else can we use also to get light? We have talked of electric bulbs. We have talked of the candles. We also talked of the fire. We have also talked of the electric bulbs. What else can we use in order to get light, which is artificially made? So let's also look at like torches. What else can we use to get light? We have several of them, but let's have those few artificial sources of light. Then let's look at the use of the sun. The use of the sun. The use of the sun. Let's look at the uses of the sun in our environment. of the sun to our environment. What are some of the uses of the sun in our environment? One, we are saying that the sun dries our clothes. The sun dries our clothes. What else do you think are the uses of the sun in our environment? We're also saying that the sun dries farmers' harvested crops. There's drying the farmers' harvested crops, and there's drying also farmers' crop when it's not yet ready to be harvested. So that is also another disadvantage. It's not the useful part of the sun, but it's the effects, it's the disadvantage, is the danger of the sun to our environment, because the farmers, all the crops are not yet ready to be harvested, but due to too much sunshine, you will see that the crops are getting dry before their maturity or before their time of harvesting. So we are also saying that as the advantage, we are saying that the sun dries the farmers' harvested crops. Dries farmers' harvested crops. Harvested crops. What else do we have as the advantage of the sun to our environment? The sun also provides us with light, as we have just talked of. The sun provides us with the light. Without light, we are not able to see. That's why we need light. That's why we are able to see during daytime. But at night, because the sun is not there, in darkness, we are not able to see anything. So the sun provides us with light that helps us to see. Then also the sun provides us with heat. That's why very early in the morning, when the sun is getting set, we try to move out and we say we are going to warm ourselves. But what are we getting from the sun? Are we just trying to warm ourselves, or there's something we are also trying to get from the sun? We get vitamin D from the sun rays. So we are also saying that the sun provides us with the heat. Us with heat. We are saying the sun provides us with heat, and then also we are saying that the sun is the source of solar energy. Also provides us with the solar energy. The sun provides us with the solar energy. With the solar energy. Let's have those as being the importance, the advantages, or the uses of the sun to our environment. With something that has the importance, we also have the disadvantage or the effects or the dangers of too much sunshine in our environment. So let's look at the dangers or the effects of too much sunshine to our environment. Dangers. We have seen that we can say dangers or effects. Effects. At times we can also say the disadvantages of too much sunshine. Of too much sunshine. What do you think are the effects, are the disadvantages, are the dangers of too much sunshine to our environment? One, we have seen that too much sunshine destroys farmers' crops. Destroys farmers' crops. That is the first one, the first disadvantage, the first effects. So we are saying too much sunshine destroys farmers' crops. Destroys farmers' crops. And when the crops are destroyed due to too much sunshine, the end results will be famine or hunger. You will see that there is shortage of food. That is as a result of too much sunshine, destroying farmers' crops. Then also we are saying that too much sunshine causes what called drought. And we looked at drought before. We said drought is a prolonged period of too much sunshine. So we are saying that too much sunshine causes drought. Too much sunshine causes droughts. And also we are saying that too much sunshine raises the temperature. That's why when it's too hot, you tend to remove your shirt so that you try to get some fresh air. So that is rising or increase in the temperature. So we are saying too much sunshine raises temperature. What are some of the disadvantages of too much sunshine in our environment? Also, too much sunshine makes the soil hard for digging. We cannot cultivate during dry season. Why? Because the soil is already hard. We cannot cultivate it. We cannot carry out the digging. So too much sunshine makes the soil hard for digging. Makes the soil hard for digging. That is during dry season, when there is some bit of hot temperature. When there is some bit of hot temperature, the sun is overheating the land and the soil becomes a bit hard that we cannot even carry out cultivation. We cannot carry out farming during dry season. Why? Because the soil is already hard. And the only activity that can be carried out during dry season is harvesting and land preparation. People try to prepare their land during this dry season such that they wait for the period of planting their crops. So with this, we have looked at, I beg that we write all what we have looked at. We try to go through them critically. Let's try to write correct spellings. We make sure that each and everything that we have written here, we have discussed. Let's try to revise them, because anytime we shall come back to school and we shall do some questions about this. But with that, I would like to leave you with some activities to do. So my friends, we have talked of several things here. We have looked at the sun as being the main natural source of light. We have also looked at the artificial and the natural sources of light. We have also looked at the uses of light, the uses of the sun, and the effects or the dangers of the sun, or the disadvantages of the sun. So I would like to leave you with some of the activities here that I expect you to do them. Write them neatly. Make sure that you underline them, write them with the correct spellings. And I want us to first go through these activities that I've given you. Number one is saying, identify the main natural source of light. That is our number one. Two, we have seen that why is the moon not considered to be the natural source of light? Three, apart from the sun, mention any three natural sources of light. And then four, write down any two uses of sun to the environment. And then five, name the hottest star in the atmosphere. And so I expect you to do them neatly, bring them for marking, and then try to revise them. So with that, I beg to advise you that let's try to respect our parents as we are at home. Let's try to respect these SOPs as we stay at home. And when you're going to the public, make sure that you wear your mask. Try to keep the social distance so that we try to avoid this COVID-19 that is destroying our country. And I beg that let's try to stay at home. I pray that God brings us back to school safely, and then we continue from where we stopped. May God bless you.